Hi, I'm Mike Mayerhofer, Director of Technology at Liberty Oilfield Services, and I'm here to talk about Liberty's perspective on the ongoing issue of using local sand as proppant versus white sand in unconventional reservoirs. Of course, local sand has become really an attractive choice because of the low cost and has stirred a lot of discussions on using it. There's tremendous interest, of course, by the operators to see how it actually affects long-term well performance. And so the Liberty Tech team has undergone a lot of studies, detailed studies, to evaluate this issue. So when looking at baseline lab conductivity numbers, on the left hand you see StimLab's Predict K conductivities at 1 pound per square foot. One can clearly see that white sand consistently has higher baseline conductivities, especially at higher effective closure stresses above 2000 psi. On the right side, you see data courtesy of Covia, which shows that at 6000 psi closure stress, 100 mesh proppant, northern white 100 mesh proppant, performs up to 1.7 times better than locally sourced 100 mesh sand. Liberty also routinely collects field samples and does conductivity testing. You see an example here tested at 6000 psi closure stress with 2 pounds per square foot prop concentration, tested by Prop Tester. Shows a comparison of 4070 mesh proppants. The orange dots are the 4070 local sand, and the blue dots are the 4070 northern white. And you can clearly see the local sand has about 2.5 times less fracture conductivity than the northern white sand. This, of course, has led to concerns with many operators that the local sand may be underperforming compared to the white sand. So Liberty has also done some reservoir modeling studies to look at the impact of local versus white sand. And what you see here is a reservoir simulation conducted in Predict K that shows for an Eagle Ford at 12,000 foot depth with 8100 psi closure stress and a permeability of 1.5 microdarcy. So these are pretty extreme conditions for using sand, that there's no appreciable production performance differences. And when looking at the economics, the net present value on the right side, one also see that all the curves collapse. The only one that's a little bit lower is the 100 mesh local sand, which is a little lower than the larger mesh 4070 sands. So that said, it's really all about dimensionless frac conductivity, which is the ratio of the flow capacity in the fractures versus the flow capacity from the formation. These rocks are really, really tight. So this would be akin to the analog of a rural area that needs highways with a lot less lanes because there's less cars, compared to a large city with lots of traffic where you need a lot of lanes on your highways. Liberty also has an extensive production database, and here we're looking at 1 year cumulative oil production normalized per foot of lateral in a cumulative frequency plot comparing brown sand and white sand for 2 major basins, the Midland Basin Wolfcamp B on the left and the Southwest Eagle Ford on the right side. And you can see there's no appreciable well performance differences between the two. One can even argue that the Eagle Ford wells are slightly outperforming the brown sand wells, slightly outperforming the white sand wells. Now, these production curves are not normalized for reservoir quality or completion differences, so Liberty does more advanced statistical analyses to evaluate those effects. And that's what you see here. This was a very rich, detailed data set with very good data where we performed a neural network prediction, and the neural networks did not show any significant production uplift of white sand versus local sand wells. We also extended that to a larger basin data set doing multiple linear regression, and we saw no significant impact of sand type on production. And looking further at the table, one can also see when normalizing for basic completion parameters such as number of stages, pounds of proppant pumped, foot of lateral, the brown wells actually seem to be outperforming the white sand wells. So in summary, there's no question that lab conductivities indicate that local sand is of lower quality than white sand. But really the big question is is the local sand dimensionless fracture conductivity good enough in unconventional reservoirs? Cumulative frequency production comparisons in 2 major Texas basins show there's really no significant well performance differences between local and white sand. And this is based on 1-year data. So the long-term data would definitely still need to be evaluated. Also, our advanced statistical analysis showed no significant impact of sand type on production. So as I mentioned, the jury is definitely still out on long-term production, and Liberty is continuing to evaluate this issue. But it seems like at the moment, definitely from an economics point of view, local sand seems to be winning the battle over white sand.